Hey, everybody, welcome back to Ink and Effort, the podcast where we turn your writing dreams into a productive reality one page at a time. I'm your host, James Fox, and I was pretty excited about last week. I don't know if you got to catch the episode, but it was really insightful. I think one of the things that a lot of authors struggle with is a writing space, right? If you're in your house, if you're trying to do this kind of like on the side, or you're in the office, it's kind of like your side hustle. It can be very daunting to try to like carve out a space where you can be creative. If you've got kids or you've got like dogs or whatever, like there's distractions, there's things happening, and a lot of times people have to be really focused and in order to be creative. So. Um, Melinda and I did not prescribe to that at all, as you might have seen from the episode. We are more like thrive in the chaos kind of people. So we want to be out and about. I mean, I've been locking myself in my car, and driving up into the hills and standing in my underwear in a creek and just trying to be all over the place because it's shaking me up a little bit. And I'm writing outside of my current genres at the moment, so it's been really beneficial for me to just kind of like shake things up and not be in my space surrounded by my sci-fi, things and just, do the hard things a little bit. So that being said, today's episode is one of the big ones. Okay. This is one of the things that people talk about all the time. Doesn't matter what career you're in. This conversation always comes up, right? This is the balancing writing with daily life, right? This is your work-life balance. And when you decide that you want to be an author, a lot of times you don't have the benefit of just becoming an author right out of the gate. You're balancing your work, you're balancing your life, and then you're balancing your writing. And that can be tricky. So I'm very excited about all my guests because they're my friends and they're very prolific and they're amazing authors and whatever. But this particular guest belongs to my mastermind group, has been with me along my entire author journey pretty much, and has been incredibly insightful and encouraging. And like, I don't have a better accountability partner than this person. So, I'm very, very pleased to have her on the show. And I think that this is going to be a big one. I think that everybody really needs to kind of like focus in and, this might be, I never advocate for to make you like, save things and review it later or whatever, but this is one that I think you might want to. I mean, I think I might even too. I went back and listened to last week's just because there are some things that we talked about in the moment that I was like, wow, you know what? I never really thought about it that way before. And I think we're going to have similar insights in this week's episode as well. So without any more delay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest, E.W. Barnes, and welcome E to the show. E, how are you doing today? Welcome to Ink and Effort.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So I always mute everybody because I don't want you to have to listen to my whole spiel beforehand. I feel it might somehow inadvertently slant the conversation or give a bias to the conversation. But I did, mention how we're in a mastermind group. And that's one of the things that we've talked about on the show is the importance of being in mastermind groups and how you have been like one of the best like accountability partners that I've had as an author. So,
Well, thank you.
and how excited I am to have you on the show. So,
Thank you very much.
so let's talk about that dreaded writer work life balance. I mean, it's kind of this three-way thing for a lot of people because they don't get to be just a writer right out of the gate. What do you think about that?
I think that's probably an accurate statistic. I think, obviously, it's very hard to turn writing into a career right out of the gate. And so most writers probably have a career that pays the bills while they are working on the career of their heart. And
Right.
then if they're lucky and can get that income coming in from the writing, then they can go ahead and shift over to the career of the heart being a full-time gig. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that can make it tricky because I think people already struggle pretty mightily with work-life balance just in general. Like if they've got the day job and then they've got the like home life. So, adding a third element to that can be really daunting.
Agreed.
Do
Absolutely.
do you think it's worth it for people to do it, to take the leap, or do you think that they should wait until they can kind of back off of the day job and just focus on the writing?
That is a terrific question. And I think that the answer to that question is going to be what is going to sound a little bit like a cop out, but really is the truth. You got to figure it out for yourself. I was fortunate that when I started to write, my day job had eased up quite a bit. And so I had the time to go ahead and jump in and do the writing. And I don't think I would have done it if I didn't have the freeing of that part of my brain to focus on learning something new.
Yeah, I mean, I did something similar. It was right before COVID, and I had decided I'm going to focus on the writing. I feel like there's something there. I've been writing scripts forever. I'm going to just dig in and see what I can figure out.
Yeah.
Then COVID hit, and everything shut down anyway. I was like, this is perfect. Um, so, yeah. So how do you think that maintaining proper work? I mean, this seems like a loaded question, but I feel like it's really complicated. Like, I don't know the answer to this. How do you think that maintaining a like proper work-life balance, whatever that looks like for you, um, helps prevent burnout and helps like foster creativity? Or do you think it does?
Well, I think it does exactly. I think you can't have self-protection from burnout and foster creativity without the balance. The question is, what does balance mean? And that's one of those things that I think has to be evaluated on a very personal level. And I think it has to incorporate a real understanding of what your goals are, what's motivating you, and how you're feeling about what you're doing. Because if you are uncomfortable for whatever reason, it could be something as simple as you don't want to write the next scene because you don't know what to do, or something as huge as I don't want to make a lot of money because I don't know how to be a person who makes a lot of money, which is a big internal crisis that you kind of have to resolve before you can move forward. You have to find out what you're feeling in order to be able to find that balance. And when you find yourself stuck, taking a step back, doing a real close self inventory to see what's going on can really help you then take the next step so you're not feeling overwhelmed and then not taking yourself into a place where burnout can occur.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I never really thought about like the whole like self-inhibited wealth thing. I mean, I grew up super poor, almost starved to death several times in my childhood, just from lack of money, lack of food. Um, I like money makes me nervous. Like
Yeah. And
having money gives me anxiety.
yeah. And don't think you're the only one, but I just threw that as a possible
Yeah.
thing that people can feel. Other people can feel like they'll be looked down on by people they care about because writing is not considered to be a real profession, or there's any number of very subtle subconscious things that can slow you down, and there can also be very obvious things right in front of you. I don't have time to write because I have to do the laundry and clean the dishes. I mean, so you have to kind of sit down and figure out what's going on and what's leading into the emotional push and pull so that then you can be aware and give it the proper time for whatever it is that you need to do in order to find that balance.
So if you don't mind me asking, we both know that I'm terrible at work-life balance. I'm awful. I'm probably the worst. So, what does work-life balance look like for you? Like on the daily, what does that mean for you? Maybe not like, what you're successful at or what your like daily practices are, but what does, when you think about, oh, I need to check my work-life balance, what does that mean for you?
It means for me actually being incredibly flexible. I am actually someone who loves structure. I find satisfaction in setting a structure and following through on it. However, I am an interconnected part of a family who the other members of my family, for them, schedule and plan are four-letter words. And plan is literally a four-letter word, but it also is, it's anathema for both of them. So if I'm going to function in this interconnected family that I adore, I have to work with the wonderful people I have to work with. And so that means I actually had to adapt and adopt flexibility into my schedule. So I actually I have structure for my own time, for my own things, personal things. And then for the rest of the time, I have a check mark. I need to do this, the check boxes for all the list of things that I have to do today, but I get to them in whatever order it happens to fall in based on what's happening in the family that day.
Interesting. Okay, so you have some very like regimented areas of your life, but then some of the areas where you don't necessarily have direct control, you are a little bit more flexible but available, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for me I thrive in the chaos. I try very hard not to plan, because when I'm feeling that creative itch, I want to sit down and scratch it. And if I'm locked into something else, then obviously, like, that can't happen. So, I mean, of late, I've been, for the last month or so, I guess now, I've been like writing in my car, driving up
Yeah.
into the mountains, and just
Yep.
like, I was telling Melinda and I spoke last week about space, creating a productive space. I was like, my creative space was literally standing in a creek, holding my laptop with one hand and typing for like 2 hours because it was
Yeah.
hot. Um, and I feel like that it kind of plays into my work life balance too. Like I have a tendency to get my head in under the hood and start banging around on the engine, and then I come out and I go, great, I'm done. And it's been 3 months and I haven't seen anybody, I haven't eaten, I don't know how much I've slept. And then I fall apart for 3 months, so I kind of feel like I do it in big waves, which I can't sit here and recommend. So is yours kind of more like a function on the daily, or do you kind of like block things out weekly? Like, what kind of like time scale do you usually try to work with?
Oh, it's definitely on the daily, and it's definitely about the marathon and not the sprint. I have multiple projects, not just writing projects, even though I also have multiple writing projects, but I also have multiple goals for myself that I have set that require day to day consistency to move forward on them. And each one of them is a kind of marathon, from, my taking care of my health and my, recreation, to taking care of my family and the household responsibilities that I have taken on, which includes, cooking and cleaning and all of those things. I have a certain goal for what that will look like on a day-to-day basis. And so, but doing it small bites at a time. And again, leaving a big gap of time for the writing related stuff that I can then, because I'm actually a little bit like you too. When it comes to the creative stuff, I do tend to be a little bit more fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I may not be ready to jump in on the next scene that I want to work on until the end of the day, but then I'll jump in and do it.
Right.
And or I may be ready to work on it at the beginning of the day. So I do, but it's a block of time that I set aside to do that, while the rest of the time is more structured and more focused on those other goals.
So let's talk about those other goals, because one of the things that I think my weakest point in all of this is like setting high priority tasks, right? Like everything for me is priority one, must be done as ASAP, like stat, like I have, it's either a priority or it's not for me. There's no weird grayscale there. So what do you have any like useful tips or techniques that you use to try to like prioritize things and like set high priority tasks versus something that's a little bit more low priority?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, actually, there is, oh, I've got to remember her name. I've reached that stage in life where I don't remember anybody's name anymore, but there is an author who has an organizational structure that I actually find very helpful to use for me, to kind of give me a framework. I don't follow everything she does, but the structure she pulled together, I think, is really helpful. And she has something called, her name is Sarah Cannon, Sarra, and she has something called HB90 Boot Camp, which is essentially putting together your quarterly schedule. And she goes deep into what's important to you, what's not important to you, how do you define what's important to you, how do you prioritize, how much time are you going to give that priority. And it very much goes from 35,000 foot level into the weeds
Wow.
on organizing that. Now, I did it once and I have not felt it necessary to go as deep into the weeds as she did, because I was like, okay, that's enough, I kind of get it and I can do it from here. But the first time around was worth it. And there is a cost to it, so it's not a free program. So it may not be something that everybody wants to use. But I found just sitting down and having that deep, in-depth introspection on what is important to me and what isn't, prioritizing and why. And it's all legit. It doesn't matter what you decide to prioritize or not. It's all legit.
Right.
And then honoring that and moving forward with it.
Yeah, it's hard for me. I mean, there are a lot of days where I'm burnt out. Today I'm burnt out. Like I don't want to write. I can't feel creative. I got a headache. We've got
And
fires.
maybe that's something that you say to yourself, okay, Thursdays are burnout day. I'm tired.
Yeah. See,
Thursdays, I frequently cook pizzas because I'm tired.
the the problem is that I don't like to be told what to do, even by myself. So the second I
Mm.
go, oh, Thursdays are going to be burnout days, part of my brain goes, you can't tell me what to do. Next Thursday is going to be awesome.
Okay.
So
Well, I can tell you from my experience as a parent that what I might do in that circumstance is offer yourself options.
right.
Okay, Thursday might be a burnout day, so I might want to choose this, or I might want to do this, or I might want to do that. And then give yourself an array of options that you might choose to do that day. And then you don't feel like you're being pigeonholed into a particular, that's just an idea to
Yeah,
consider.
yeah. So kind of what I do right now is I give myself 5 days a month. I track them, and I'm like, today's a burnout day. Like I got nothing. I got nothing to give today, or I just don't feel right, or there's other stuff I want to do. I want to play video games all day. So I give myself 5 days a month, and there have been times where I've taken like 3 or 4 days in a row where I was just
Yeah.
like, I can't do it. But then usually by that time I'm a Gemini, right? So the second I start doing something for too long, I get bored, even if that's fun, burnout stuff. I'm like suddenly like, I need to work. I want to work. That's all I want to do. And then I work for 2 weeks straight. So I do that's kind of like, I wouldn't say that it's a prioritization thing, but it's like a mental health work-life balance thing. And
Yeah.
it's about all I do is I give myself burnout days. Um,
But if
okay.
you're starting to see a pattern of that, then you can sort of get an idea of what it might need to look like for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we've talked about data collection. I collect all the data on everything. So I actually have calendars where I've like red X'd out, my burnout days and tracked them and actually take notes of what I do on those days to try to identify patterns. It's pretty chaotic. So,
Okay.
but I mean, I feel like everything has a pattern. You just might not have enough of a large enough data set yet. Right. So I'm still working on it. I'll update as I know more.
Okay,
Um,
good.
um, so let's talk about that real quick. Like signs of imbalance. Are there any things that you notice in yourself or in your patterns or in your priorities or prioritizations where you go, hold on, something's not right, something's broken. I've got an imbalance in my work life, prioritization, and it's impacting my productivity or it's impacting my health. Are there any warning signs that you can share?
Yes, absolutely. I will have physical signs. I get a really tight left shoulder that I have these lovely muscles in my left shoulder that start to squeeze nerves. I get pinched nerves, which then send, shooting pains down my left arm, which is never fun. So I have started to use that as a bellwether of, okay, what's going on there? You are tense, something's not right, things are out of balance. I am generally incredibly patient with my family. If I start to feel short-tempered, like I'm not giving them the time and the attention that I usually give them, I'll do a swift check. Okay, what's going on? Inside myself. If you talked about playing video games. I think you and I have talked about this before. You like to play Minecraft. I like to play Minecraft. If I all of a sudden find myself burying myself in a Minecraft world to the exclusion of everything else, I'll know that I've got something going on there and I need to take a break and take a step back. And then there are times when I just want to take a nap.
Yeah.
And I don't usually nap in the daytime. So if I'm wanting to take a nap, I will examine what's going on and see, okay, is there something that's not quite going here? And it's usually something, and 9 times out of 10, it's usually some emotional issue that I have not addressed, that I have shied away from because it's uncomfortable. And then I'll just need to sit down and go, okay, what is it that's bothering you?
Yeah.
In a really nice way for myself. And then that usually will help bring that balance back into place.
Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people kind of, especially if they're in the grind, like if they've got that 9 to 5 or, they've got a full like 8-hour job and then they've got a family and then
Yep.
they're trying to fit in that writer's life. They feel like if they're not sacrificing their health, they're not working hard enough. And I think
Yeah.
that is a myth that gets
Yes.
propagated, especially in creative fields. Like being a creative should not hurt. It should
Yeah.
feel good.
Yes.
And I think that's a lot of things that we just, like I do it. My left shoulder is killing me all the time, and I will sit there and go, no, if it doesn't hurt, I'm not working hard enough, right? I beat myself up all the time, like I shouldn't feel good about this. This is work.
Absolutely. I actually had just a couple of weeks ago had this scenario where I was frustrated that I did not accomplish all of the things I had set out to accomplish during a week. And so I was like, okay, well, if you dial it back and lower your expectations, you'll be able to accomplish those things. But then the other side of my brain was going, yes, but if I do that, then I won't have worked hard enough. If I
Right.
can finish it, it's not hard enough. And then I was like, okay, so what's going to be satisfying here?
Wait,
You've
you're
got to
almost like
sit
you're
down and figure this out.
yeah, you can almost become your own worst enemy because it's
Yep.
like you want things, but then you step back and you say, but I also need things, and sometimes those things are incongruent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate the term lowering expectations. I expect very high things of myself. I expect very high things of the people around me and in my life. Um, that's not fair, but I also don't judge people if they don't meet those expectations. But I feel like the second you stop having expectations or lower your expectations, like you're almost forgiving yourself to fail. So like I always advocate like have high expectations, but be okay if you don't reach them. Like expect the world and settle for what you can do.
Yeah.
But so let, let's drill into the writing really quick because I feel like everything we've talked about so far has kind of been work-life balance kind of in general, and I think that's a whole topic unto itself. But I think that writing is a special monster. Um, do you have any like practices that you deploy for developing a writing schedule? Like are there set times? Do you do like set times of day? Do you do like a set amount of time? Like you say, hey, I'm gonna find 2 hours in the day. I don't know where that's gonna be, but somewhere between middle of the morning and midnight, I'm finding 2 hours solid chunk that I can write. What do you typically do?
Well, I actually frame my writing goals in the terms of words as
Okay.
opposed to time because it could take me a short period of time to reach a number of words. It could take me a long period of time. Depends on, how the brain is functioning that day. So I will coordinate it in terms of words completed. And as we talked about, I have a period of time in the middle of the day as a rule. It's several hours where I know that at some point within those hours, I will do that writing. I do not have a set time to do it because, again, like you said, and I loved how you framed it when we were talking about this earlier, I make myself available for my flexible needing family. So that means that if I try to do it at a specific time, I can't tell you the number of times I've tried to do that and it just blows up. So I find a time when everybody's on the computer doing their own thing, the dog is asleep, and then I can dive in and do my thing. So that's how I do it. But there are some things that help sort of get me into the mode. I do use some strategies to help me do that. I tend to do best if I dictate.
Okay.
And I actually really love to edit. I'm a discovery writer who I love to go back and edit my stuff as I write because it helps inspire new ideas. And then I come up with new things that I want to write down the road. So editing is a lot of fun for me, but it can also be a distractor if
Hmm.
I start to write and then I'm going back up and editing when I'm trying to incorporate, I'm trying to complete that word goal. So
Right.
what I do is I dictate and I do not look at the screen while I'm dictating. I actually needlepoint.
Really?
Yeah, while I'm dictating. So that
Huh.
I'm essentially talking to the microphone with my needlepoint in my hands. I've got my hands moving because I find that my brain works much better if I've got something going on with my hands. And don't look at the screen and just talk my scene through. And then I'll look up and I'll see how many words I've got. And I can't tell you the number of times I'll have that 500 words in a half an hour.
Wow. Okay, so I want to drill into this a little bit. Are you dictating the actual like written word, or are you just like dictating notes of what you're going to write later?
No, I'm dictating.
Really?
New
Okay.
paragraph, open quotes, speech, comma, close paragraph, said, character, period.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm dictating exactly. Now, the dictation program, it's science fiction that I'm writing right now, and it doesn't understand all my words. So then I actually have to go back and clean it all up, but
Sure.
it's all there.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So I've dabbled in dictation a little bit, but I learned that I do not speak the way that I write. So like the it sounds like two totally different people. Um, so like when I finished dictating a chapter, I went back and read it. Was like, oh, this is terrible. So I wound up rewriting the whole thing anyway, and I found that the only way it worked for me is if I just do like kind of outline stuff, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to happen, this is going to happen, so and so is going to have dialogue about this, they're going to fuss about this, and then they're going to jump back in the spaceship and go blow something up.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, geez. Okay, so you is what's your typical pace for dictation? Like, what can you do in an hour or half hour?
In a half an hour, I can if things are going well, I can do 500 words in a half an hour.
Hmm.
And I can do about 800 words in an hour, I have found.
Okay.
And then I start to feel tired because it does, there's just no getting around it. People think writing is easy, and I'm going to say no, actually it's not. It actually uses quite a bit of juice.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, it's physically taxing because you're tense at your keyboard, and if you're typing and you're tense and you're writing, you're mentally tense because you're balancing, I don't even know how many plot points in your head and characters and whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's exhausting. When I finish a big day of writing, I faceplant. I'm done. I feel like I've been in the ring getting my butt kicked all day. So
I noticed that I sleep so much better on days that I've written.
yeah, for sure. It's physically and mentally and emotionally exhausting. I mean, you get invested in your characters.
I had a scene last week where my characters were at risk of drowning in a space station. I won't go into how it happens, but they and I was so tense writing this scene because it was scaring me.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, I get the same thing with script writing where like I'll get into a scene and I physically feel it.
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome strategy. I think, is there anything else that you do, like productivity tools or productivity methodologies that you deploy?
I also love the Pomodoro technique.
I knew you did. I almost asked you if you used it because I was like, that feels like something that you would like.
Yep, I do.
Can you explain it? Can you explain it in at kind of a high level for people who aren't familiar with it?
Sure. The Pomodoro technique was developed, as I understand it, by an Italian gentleman who actually used the word Pomodoro, which means tomato, because he had this timer in his kitchen in the shape of tomato. And it is that you work for 25 minutes, you set a timer, work for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And so it has this, I find it incredibly helpful for me because 25 minutes is a very doable amount of time for me to get work done. I will probably take a 10-minute break because 5 minutes is not enough time for me to shift gears and then shift back again for whatever reason I might need to take a break, and then go back and do another 25 minutes. And the whole idea is that, you're confining your productivity within this time period will help. You're sort of motivated to do as much as you can within that 25 minutes. And it's amazing how much I can get done in 25 minutes when I'm thinking, okay, let me, just keep writing and writing and writing and writing for 25 minutes until I'm done.
Yeah.
See what happens. So I find it very helpful. As a matter of fact, I actually have created, because I think it's a lot of fun, I have on my YouTube channel Pomodoro videos that are in just focusing on locations in my Minecraft world. So
nice.
Just a video of something I've built, the sun rising and setting for 25 minutes.
That's great.
And I can just throw that on in the background with like a little bell, and then I get my 25 minutes and a 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes. It's just fun.
Well, that's awesome.
I do find it a very helpful technique for me.
Where can people find that? I mean, can they just Google Pomodoro technique and get information on that?
For general information on the Pomodoro technique, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Okay, great. All right. I think that we've covered just about everything from self-care to productivity techniques and kind of what work-life balance looks like for authors. Where can people find you? What are you excited about? What are you working on right now? And if people want to connect, how do they do that?
Well, you can find me at my website, which is 1000years.com. So that's the letter A, the number 1000, 1000, and years.com. And I write science fiction and fantasy, though right now I'm focusing on science fiction. So I have a time travel series, which I call my freshman series because it's the first series that I ever wrote. There are 4 books in the series plus a standalone novel. And I'm currently working on a 5-book space opera science fiction series, at which I really enjoy these characters. It's a sort of a team story, sort of a, I call it pseudo military because I am not a military science fiction writer. And so I don't want people to think that, because military science fiction has some very specific elements that people enjoy. My books don't really have those, but they are a sort of a pseudo military group. And so I enjoy writing sort of the collaborative team framework for these stories. So I'm on book 3 of that 5-book series, and I'm excited about, continuing, finishing up that series, and then moving on to new things. I have all kinds of books in my head. And where people can find me is on my website. I encourage them to sign up for my newsletter, and that's the best way to reach me. And if people want to see those fun little Minecraft Pomodoro videos, I'm on YouTube at E.W. Barnes Author, and you can find those videos in their own playlist. And I just have fun making them now and then and using them.
I might try it. I might try the Pomodoro technique and bring up those videos and just give it a shot.
See if it works or not.
Yeah, I'm a momentum writer, so like I kind of start slow, and then as I go, I speed up, and once I hit the 10-hour mark, I'm doing the 205 words per minute. I can't be stopped, and I no longer need food or oxygen or water, and I just I become one with the machine, I feel like. So it'd be interesting to see how taking breaks would affect me. All right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your advice and your unique perspective. I think that this was helpful. I think that this is something, more than anything else, I think that this right here is what keeps potential authors away from the career.
Yeah.
They're just not being able to figure it out. They can't balance it out. Yeah.
Well, and one other thing I will add, you'd asked what other techniques I do. And when you were talking about going out into the stream with your laptop, I think that has a great deal of validity. When I am in the car for long periods of time, I will dictate. Just it's harder to dictate on my phone. So in that case, I'll dictate those ideas instead of actual, dialogue, etc. But yes, finding the time, dictate in the car, dictate at lunchtime, or scribble down ideas at lunchtime to help you find the time to do it without burning yourself out, but just using the time when you feel motivated. Yeah, I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Finding the time, making the time, and prioritizing it is part of the gig. It's part of the gig, whether you like it or not.
And honoring your priorities, even if they're not what you hoped they would be.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you've been wonderful. And I'm going to see you in our mastermind. Eventually, I'll be there. Eventually, I do follow everything you guys are talking about. I just, I'm trying to get my own stuff figured out. But I plan on being back there soon.
Good. It'll be good to see you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, here we are, right? Again, just really great advice. There's no one size fits all solution for being an author, right? There's not. If it works for me, it might work for you, but it might not, and that's okay. I think part of the fun is figuring it out for yourself, figuring out how to make it work. I can tell you right now that the way that I write, and at the speed that I write, and the way that I abuse myself through my writing is not for everybody. People find out about the way that I write, and they are, first of all, they kind of freak out about my word counts and the amount of time that I do. But then it's like, yeah, but I'll write for 12 hours straight, and I will abuse myself to get 15,000 words. And then I will die for 3 days and not be able to do anything. So if you're doing 5,000 words a day for 3 days, you're actually beating me, right? And you're probably being healthier about it too. So it's just my process. It's what works. I've tried to do the 2,500 words a day, 7 days a week. I've tried to do the 5,000 words in half a day. I can't do it. So I think that it's important to recognize what you need, right? To make sure that you're healthy in doing it. That's an area I struggle. And to make sure that you're not deprioritizing every other aspect of your life, whether it's your day job, your family, your dogs, your vegetable garden, whatever. Because those things are important. That's what keeps us creative. That's what keeps us driving, is those life experiences and those things that we love. If we cut out or we let the atrophy, the things that we love in our lives, then eventually we're not going to love our jobs anymore, right? And that's the point. You should love this. You should love this job. This shouldn't be something that you hate to do. That being said, if you love it too much and you make it your top priority all the time, the rest of your life will suffer, and eventually that will impact your writing. So, I'm James Fox. Thank you for watching. Keep writing, keep pushing, and remember, it's the ink and the effort that brings stories to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow us on social media for more work, tips, and inspiration. Keep going.